Cool. Hey, speaking of Rihanna, she's one of my favorite artists. Did you get a chance to interact with her?
Yeah. Oh yeah. And she's super sweet in person. I would say, like, in rehearsals, she was, very humble, and she talked to everybody, and we took pictures together, and she wasn't like a diva, because I've met some other people, some other that won't talk to you, or they won't. Yeah. But Rihanna was of all of them, she was probably one of the most down to earth.
Yeah, I heard, through a friend of mine. I kind of worked in the music business for I don't know, probably 2-3 years. I built a couple websites for people when I lived in Atlanta. So yeah, I've met some people, were cool. Some people.
Sit back and relax and get ready for another exclusive episode of the Online Marketing Secrets Podcast with Lopez.
This episode is brought to you by the best AI software online called Goody. That's Goody. Goody will help you create all content for your blogs, websites, newsletters, articles, ads, and even pictures. LinkedIn posts, Twitter, you name it. All you got to do is go to lopezthesane.com/Goody. That's Goody. And the best part about Goody is absolutely free. That's right. It's free for the first 7 days. You can cancel at any time. Goody will help you create all your contents for your blogs and websites online. And it's 100% absolutely free, full access for the first 7 days. All you got to do, just go to my website. That's lopezthesane.com/Goody. That's Goody. Or just click the link in the show notes and get started today. Welcome to another episode of the Online Marketing Secrets Podcast. I'm your host, Lopez. So like and share this episode. And P.S. by the way, before I get started, anything you need help with, any topic ideas, anyone you would like to see me bring on, you can always hit me in the DMs on Instagram. The link will be in the show notes. And you can always go to my personal website and send me a email contact over there. Just go to my personal website, lopezthesane.com, which will be below in the show notes, and go to the contact page, and you can always send me a message over there. So anything you need help with online, that's how you get in contact with me. So with that being said, today I have another special guest. He's a rock star, man. He's a rock singer, visionary, violinist. His career spans from performing, being a songwriter, producer. He's collaborated with some of the biggest artists like Rihanna, India.Arie, Jason Mraz. He's contributed to major industry projects from Disney, Cadillac, Fox, ABC, Apple, Toyota, and more. And plus, he's worked with other entities like the musical, which recently won the top award at the Malibu Film Festival. He plays the violin, piano, guitar, and a whole list of other instruments. My special guest today is DPAK. Welcome to the show. So, where you from?
Yeah, I'm originally from Maryland, actually. I was born in Baltimore, grew up in Columbia, Maryland, went to College Park, but now these days I'm based in Los Angeles. I went out there, to pursue the dream as a musician.
Oh, cool, man. You know, so how'd you get in the music business? Was it did you start off as a kid? Is it a family thing, or how'd you get started?
It's a wild story. I mean, I grew up my whole life, you know, growing up in Maryland doing, like, I'm a first generation Indian American. So like a lot of us growing up, you know, you're not going to be a musician, you know, as a career, but you definitely are encouraged to learn the arts. That was a big part of our upbringing. But, you know, my path was originally going to be either a doctor or a lawyer or a computer scientist or an engineer, typical Indian kind of kid growing up on the East Coast. And so I was just doing it as a hobby. I grew up always playing music, playing violin. I had violin, you know, and I loved Michael Jackson growing up, and I was always listening to him and singing his songs like, she was more like a beauty queen. You know, I would like kind of bust out all the time, and everyone's like, oh, he's very musical. We should encourage more music. So I did it in school and all that. But when I went to college, I was going there to be a doctor or lawyer. I did pre-med, I did pre-law, neurobiology, physiology, criminology, criminal justice. And I was just like up in the school mix, you know, focused on that. Music was always just in my mind a hobby because I didn't grow up knowing you could even do music as a career. It was always just those famous people on TV. But, you know, when I was in college, I started singing in a cappella groups. I don't know if you guys heard of that. It's like, it's all just voices, right? Like Boys to Men, but like groups like that, R&B groups. And that's when I started getting the bug of like, oh, this could be something I do, you know, for real. You know, when I graduated college, I finished, you know, made my parents happy. I finished my degrees. I wanted to at least complete what I started, because it felt good to complete. But at the same time, I was like, you know, I think my path is a little bit different. Like, I feel like I want to be an artist. So I ended up driving out to Los Angeles saying, you know, hey, I'm going to take the dream. I'm going to take the risk. I'm going to drive out there just with my computer and my guitar and my violin and my piano. And I drove out across country just with no idea. I didn't know anybody. And then, I got out there and then just kind of started networking and figuring it out.
So well, first off, what made you go to LA? Because you could have went to New York. You could have went to, I don't know, maybe Chicago. You could have went to, you could have went to Atlanta. What made you go to LA?
Well, yeah, actually, funny you mentioned New York. There was a point where I did go back and forth to New York later. What made me go to LA was I visited a friend at one point who was out here. After I graduated, I visited LA just to check it out, because I had a friend who's, you know, I had one friend who had moved out like earlier, who was like doing the acting thing. And I didn't know anybody else. I didn't know anything about the music industry, none of that. But I checked it out and I just loved like the lifestyle, the weather. There was mountains everywhere, and I'm really into nature. I grew up like really into nature, like walking barefoot and, you know, sun gazing and, you know, hiking, kind of like almost like Mowgli from the Jungle Book. I was always like a kind of a wild animal kid. And so when I got to Los Angeles and I saw as a visitor, I was like, this is amazing. You can jump in the ocean and go hiking the same day. You know, the fact that they had a mountain I could climb and, you know, work up a, you know, little, you know, I'm into fitness. I could get like a workout and then jump in the ocean and cool off. Felt like there wasn't really too many places like that also had the entertainment industry. So it was kind of like a balance between the weather and the lifestyle, and then also knowing that there was a ton of record labels, there was acting opportunities and all that.
So what's the music scene? I mean, what was the music scene like when you got there, as far as networking and meeting people? What was that like, meeting people?
Yeah, I mean, for me, it was all about just, you know, I'm motivated. I'm a hungry dude. I'm motivated. When I see a goal, I just kind of go for it. And so like my goal was to come out to LA and figure it out, like solving a puzzle, like almost like just like, you know, like riddles. I grew up doing, again, a lot of math and science and all the pre-med. So my brain was always into problem solving. And so I thought of, you know, the music industry is the same thing. Let's figure out where the people are. Let's figure out where they hang out. Let's figure out the networking. And I was doing crazy hustling type stuff where I was like on the street with my violin, like doing like a beatbox violin groove or something. And then I'd be singing and like, you know, people were coming by and I was doing it in front of Capitol Records. So I started doing that like every day in front of the record label, just on the stairs, you know, and people were walking by and they're, you know, at some point, like a week later, a couple people noticed me. They're like, hey, we've been, you know, what's your deal? You know, some people asked me like, what's your deal? I've been seeing you here for like, you know, the last week. And I was like, hey, I'm new to town, DPAK. I just got to town. I drove across here from Maryland. I'm just trying to meet people and get into the business. And they were like, I like your energy. Come on upstairs. I ended up walking into the record label like the first week I was in town. And then they're like, what call can you do? I was like, I was just showing them I can play violin, I can sing, I can do this. So I started getting hired for like little studio gigs, like record label gigs, like, yo, we need some background vocals on this track by Gomez, which is like this European band signed to Virgin Records. We need some violin on this. And it kind of got me in the mix. So that was like one thing I did. Another thing I did was like going on Craigslist and I was just clicking refresh on the gigs section. There's a section called gigs. And I was just clicking refresh over and over again until like something that relevant came up, and I would be like, ooh, that's a good one. So I ended up finding this one thing, which was like an acting role for a violinist, for a movie, and it ended up being this movie called First Daughter with Michael Keaton and Katie Holmes. And I clicked on the button and I submitted, and the guy was like, he called me right away. He's like, I just submitted that 10 seconds ago. And I told him the story, and I was like, I've been clicking refresh on here for like 3 hours straight. And he was like, that's crazy. I've never heard of that. And I was like, yeah, man, I'm motivated. He's like, dude, I like again, same thing. I like your energy. I like your motivation. So I ended up getting the gig just because I think he just liked that I was like, kind of like excited or something. I don't know. So I think like that was my experience, was just like being hungry, doing stuff that other people weren't doing, being outlandish, being unreasonable, showing up in places, walking in backstage, trying to sneak past security and meet people in the green rooms. And I think a lot of that hustle mentality, worked out to my success, because I ended up getting acting roles like on Modern Family. I got a co-starring role on the show Modern Family, like a pretty big show on ABC. I booked a bunch of national commercials. I got an agent and a manager, did some acting. But after a while, I think I was like realizing that acting was more of like a side thing, that music was really where my wheelhouse is, and I feel like more connected to it. So I couldn't do all of it at the same time. At some point, you got to kind of like start choosing your time wisely. And I think a lot of the acting was starting to dilute the music. So I just like kind of I did 3 national commercials as an actor, and it was good. But then I was like, I got to really buckle down and focus on music. So I just got into that and started producing. I built a studio out here. I started like playing live shows, doing open mics. I built a band after a while, built a pretty big following in Los Angeles with a band called The Bolt. Got several record deals over the years now. In the last 10 years, got a couple that, kind of went somewhere and then didn't kind of blow up. So I think there's a little more to it, which I'm now focusing on with the newest project. I also got a gig with Disney at one point where I produced 45 songs for a Disney show. That was pretty good. That got me a lot of PR and press, and got a pretty big credit doing that now. That's online, and performed with Rihanna, Jason Mraz, kind of like it just ended up meeting a lot of people, and just through networking and, playing shows and everything. Once you kind of in there and you start knowing people, it starts snowballing into more things. Like, oh, you did this. That's, I did this movie that led to another movie, which led to Disney, for example. But it's like it's like the little things first. Once they start adding up, it starts snowballing,
Yeah. So what's your style of music? What would you call it anyway?
That's always the tough question for me. Now I'm honing in on a specific style for my newest project. I've had when my first band that I had, The Bolt, that was like 10 years ago. That one was doing its first record deal. That's more like old school, not old school. It's more like rock, like alternative rock. And then I did another project that was all disco funk. That was almost like Michael Jackson, disco dance, like electronic. I had that one. Was was 2 projects ago. And that was like a little bit more of like the pop funk, Michael Jackson, The Weeknd. And then my last project before the current one is called Robot Nature. That was in 2020 when the lockdowns happened. We had our show, all the shows, tours got canceled that year. We were kind of blowing up that year. We had like Jimmy Kimmel slated for like the end of the year. We had a couple big stadium shows, and that one was like electro pop, almost like 21 Pilots, Imagine Dragons. And that's kind of closer to where I'm at now, where I'm kind of bridging the pop rock, electro pop, indie rock, alternative rock kind of mode, because I'm still like, I still have that pop Michael Jackson energy, but it's still, I kind of like the sound of like more like alt, like guitars and electric violin. So I'm kind of blending a unique sound together. It's still kind of got an Imagine Dragons influence, maybe 21 Pilots, maybe Coldplay, maybe like Radiohead, but still has a little bit of that Weeknd, Michael Jackson flavor in there. So I had to break it down. And it's a little bit more of a solo project now, but now I'm starting to pull in other special guests and other singers onto the project, but it's still going to be more of a solo project. The other ones were more like bands. This one's more like Justin Timberlake, for example. Like, he's a solo artist, but he's got a band live, but it's still Justin Timberlake. So like that, it'll be more like DPAK, and then I'll have special guests on stage.
How'd you come up with the name? Did you always have this name, or how'd you come up with the name? Is it unique, or?
Yeah, so my name DPAK, if you spell it the Indian way, it's actually a common Indian name. There's a famous philosopher and a doctor and a meditation teacher called Deepak Chopra. He's a very famous one. He works with like Oprah and stuff like that. So that name's not uncommon in India. So that was my birth name. That's my parents' name, and it's spelled DEEPAK. And it's actually funny. You guys can look it up on Google. If you look up the other Deepak, because when I first came to LA, everyone knew who Deepak Chopra was. So I would say, they'd be like, "What's your name?" I'd be like, "Oh, my name's Deepak," and everyone would be like, "You mean like Deepak Chopra?" And I'd be like, no, I'm the other DPAK. And I would kept on saying that. And at some point, my boy's like, you should just get theotherdpak.com. And it was a joke, but I ended up doing it. And it ended up becoming like kind of viral. Like if you look it up now, The Other DPAK, it's all over Google. And it ended up becoming like my moniker. I got the website. I started putting myself as The Other DPAK for years. But now I shifted away from that. I think it served its purpose. And I was like, I'm really into spirituality. I have the Indian background. I was doing a lot of yoga, meditation, and breathing. So it made sense to be The Other DPAK, like a younger version that's getting into the spirituality and all that. But, I just getting more serious as an artist, like the Other DPAK isn't like, it can't go that far as a serious name. It's kind of cute. It's funny. But I think now making it more like, I'm really also into sci-fi. I grew up really into Star Wars and things like that. And just making my name all caps, getting rid of the E's became like it really felt like I was a little bit more like a sci-fi character because I really relate to that. So it's like, it feels like almost like an alter ego of mine, DPAK, all caps, which is kind of like my robot, android persona or something like that, if you will.
Yeah. At what point did you say, hey, man, I can do this? I mean, what gave you the confidence to say, man, I can do this? Was it a moment or a combination of things? When was it?
It was different moments. I think, like I was saying in college, when I was doing my pre-med and my pre-law, I was in school taking all these classes, but I was doing the a cappella group, and I also was a lead. I ended up starting a funk band in college, and I was a leader of that band, lead singer and electric violinist. And I think there was moments then that's the first thing that comes to mind when you ask that, is like, it was the feeling of like, I'm on stage, I'm the lead singer of this a cappella group, and I'm the lead singer of this band, and I'm getting positive feedback, like the audience is feeling good, I'm feeling good. It felt like an exchange of energy, like almost like a circle, like Tesla. I like to get into like a lot of the free energy kind of like science fiction, the science, like not the science fiction, the science, and free energy is like an exchange of energy. And it felt like, I'm singing and the audience is like giving me joy back. And it felt like it was like a connection. Like it's not like I'm on stage and they're down here. It's almost like we're all one. It felt like we're all one, like we're unified in this energy field of positivity. And I felt like that was the feeling of like, I like this feeling. I could be a doctor, I could help people for sure, one-on-one, or I could be a lawyer and I can help people. But something about music felt like I could help millions of people and inspire that, the way I was inspired growing up. I was inspired by like Michael Jackson and Coldplay and Radiohead and people like that. When I listen to their music, I listen to Bob Marley, I listen to Pink Floyd, or all kinds of genres, like Biggie Smalls, Tupac, Outkast. Like I get inspired by that, and I'm like, if I could give that to people too when I grow up, that would be a good feeling, a gift. And I wanted to make, and that's why like I relate to Bob Marley. Like that's not my style or sound, but I like his message. Same with Michael Jackson, because their message was like bigger than the music. It's not, there's more like a movement. Like Michael Jackson has We Are the World, Heal the World. Bob Marley, like One Love. Those are bigger than just like, oh, I'm gonna write a cool song for partying. No, they're like, hey, we want to help people. We want to heal the world. We want to unify people. We want to end the divide in politics. And that's kind of what motivated me. And that's where I'm at now. And that's why this new song that's coming out, that song of mine that's coming out, Together We Rise, on October 17th. It's called Together We Rise. It's our time. It's about unifying. It's like more of the song being a movement and me just being, the song being bigger than the artist. It's not my song, it's the world's song, and I just get to be the one to share it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, the reason why I asked that, because it's one thing to have in your mind that, hey, I'm gonna say this and do this when I get on that stage. But when I was 10 years old, when I got on that stage for the first time, I froze.
Right.
for like 30 seconds. And then some lady in the audience was like, take your time. And that's when I came out of the shell and started talking.
Yeah. And that's the thing. Like, we, at the end of the day, like the only thing that comes up is our own fear of ourselves and how we're going to be perceived by others. And that's been a challenge for me. Like I grew up bullied. I grew up not accepted. I was a first generation Indian growing up in Maryland, where there was like, I was like the only Indian kid. And so I didn't know where to fit. There's white kids and there's black kids. And like, I'm not quite white. I'm not quite black. I'm feeling, what I'm saying? It was a feeling of like not knowing where I fit. And like, that was always kind of like a big challenge. So there was a lot of nervousness of me becoming a person on stage. But I think, again, like you were even saying with your experience of just going through it, facing the fear and freezing. Like when I got to college and I started going through that and feeling the feeling of the audience and the joy, that kind of made my nervousness go away of like, oh no, this isn't like a separate thing, or they're not just watching me. I'm not on some pedestal. I'm not some, like, you're on, we're all one, we're all together. We're like we're in the living room. It's like family. So like when I'm on stage now, it feels like I'm with my people, you know, like even if the audience is big, and I've been on stage for like in front of millions of people, tens of thousands of people. I've been on stage on stadiums, you know, like it still feels like I'm in the living room with everybody and that we're all hanging out, we're all friends, you know, and that's the feeling of like, you know, just feeling like community or family, like one world, team humanity. That's why I always use the phrase team humanity. That's why I made one of my websites, teamhumanity.world, because I feel like we're all one people, and I think we can end the division by just like starting to listen to each other a little bit more, you know?
Yeah. So now let's talk about the business. Now, what's been your experience with a record label? Because man, I've heard horror stories from some of the people that's been around for a long time, and some of the people that's been around for a short time. So what's been your experience?
Yeah, I mean, I've been more of an independent artist. Like all my stuff that happened with record labels, it didn't really go anywhere. You know, like I got like these record deals, and they say they're gonna do this, they say they're gonna do that. And I guess maybe I wasn't their priority artist. You know, I know they've got other artists they're probably putting more into, and it is what it is. Maybe I wasn't, you know, but I'm also like, if you weren't going to work with me, if you're not going to help blow me up, why even sign me? I'd be better off independent. So, you know, I don't have like necessarily a whole big dramatic story other than just signing a couple times and then just them like not even doing anything and me doing all the work. And so now I'm at this point where I'm like, all right, whatever. Like, I mean, I got to take life into my own hands. I gotta like share and promote and do the work. And that is the way the world is now anyway. A lot of the industry has become very independent centered. Artists do their own thing. And then eventually, if they got momentum, maybe a label will come and take it to the next level. And honestly, I'm not even that pressed about labels anymore. I mean, if I can just do it on my own and retain my creative control and own my intellectual property and my masters, that's totally fine. If a label does want to come in later and it's a reasonable deal where I'm not compromising my integrity and my values and my sound or anything like that, and they're open to me still having creative control, I'm down. If not, I'm just down to like kind of grassroots build this thing from an independent level up, and then get support from like friends and even get sponsorship, get people investing, and maybe just start our own little label where we have the full ability to, you know, present ourselves, you know, the way, you know, and present myself the way I really like feel is true to myself authentically. You know, that's the goal for me, is to maintain authenticity. I did like a whole thing with American Idol years ago, and I was sent the contract and I didn't like it, so I ended up not doing it. That was a long time ago. And so I've always tried to stay true to, you know, being able to have the creative ability to control my choices and control my message and control like what the sound of my music is, and not have some outside force like compromise, you know, like what I believe in, you know.
Yeah, I heard like American Idol, I heard they want to own everything basically, right?
Yeah, I mean, and I get it. You know, I think a lot of people that go on those shows, maybe they're just a really good singer, but they're not a songwriter, for example. They're not actually creating their own intellectual property. So it makes sense, like if they've got no other avenue, hey, you go there, they'll take care of everything for you, they'll write the songs for you, they'll produce you. And obviously because they're doing all that work, they deserve to take a large cut. I think it's still too big of a cut in my opinion. I think they're kind of screwing over a lot of artists. But that said, I'm coming in with my own songs. I've written like almost 2,000 songs. I'm done doing my movies. I'm playing all these instruments. Like I'm a creative. So I wouldn't feel good for me to sign something where I'm giving up so much of that to somebody else when I'm already kind of doing a lot of that work, which is why I feel like I'm just taking my time. I mean, you know, maybe I could have signed a deal like 10, 12 years ago and been famous by now or whatever like that. But I'm taking like I'm playing the long game. I'm staying patient. I'm staying true. I'm also like taking my time developing myself, developing my spirituality, my personal growth, who I am, so that, you know, a lot of artists too, they get famous when they're young and they're not spiritually grounded yet, and they ended up going crazy or they're doing drugs and they're getting lost in it. And I think maybe God or the universe is protecting me by you know, having me get bigger at the right time. And I've definitely been growing, and I've got some, you know, amazing I'm grateful to have the credits like Disney and Rihanna and things like that. But luckily, I've been able to stay in my own growth and not get to the point where I'm tempted by these negative things that Hollywood has sometimes. And so I do appreciate taking my time right now. And I'm excited for this new single to come out. And, you know, if it happens to be a big song like a Bob Marley or a Beatles or Michael Jackson, like Movement, hey, you know, if it can help people, I'm all for it. And I would love to get the song out there to the world.
Cool. Hey, speaking of Rihanna, she's one of my favorite artists. Did you get a chance to interact with her?
Yeah. Oh yeah. And she's super sweet in person. I would say, like, in rehearsals, she was, very humble, and she talked to everybody, and we took pictures together, and she wasn't like a diva, because I've met some other people, some other that won't talk to you, or they won't. Yeah. But Rihanna was of all of them, she was probably one of the most down to earth.
Yeah, I heard, through a friend of mine. I kind of worked in the music business for I don't know, probably 2-3 years. I built a couple websites for people when I lived in Atlanta. So yeah, I've met some people, were cool. Some people not so much.
Sure.
Yeah.
And as you mentioned Atlanta, I mentioned earlier, Outkast. That's like my favorite. Like, I grew up loving Outkast. Like Andre, even their first albums, like Southern Playalistic, Aquemini, AT Aliens, like those early records are still my favorite records, and that's like Atlanta culture. Also, I don't know if I told you, I toured with India.Arie, who's from Atlanta as well.
Okay.
We became friends like years ago. I did a West Coast series of shows with her and Idan Rachel from Israel. They co-wrote an album together, and the Open Door album, and I performed and sang and played violin and sang with India.Arie for several shows, San Diego, Santa Monica. So, but she's got the Atlanta energy too. So I do have a connection to Atlanta, especially from Outkast in India.
That's cool. So how did you learn the business of music, as far as who toured to get on and the publishing and the production? How did you learn how to do that? How do you negotiate that stuff anyway?
I mean, honestly, I'm still learning every day right now. I mean, I'm just winging it. I show up and I try to use my intuition and feel it. I ask questions. I have other people that I talk to. I'm like, hey, what do you think of this, or what's this? And especially these days, I mean, before it was just Google. I'm looking up Google and YouTube. I'm looking up, how does this work? Or when I got the deal with Disney, what's the best way to do the deal with being an orchestrator? What's the best way to negotiate that? What's the market? What's normal? And I look up stuff and I read it. Now it's all ChatGPT. Same thing. You just ask ChatGPT. Everything I would ask Google, now I ask ChatGPT the same things. And it teaches me, like, hey, I'm about to do a production deal or a performance agreement for one of my artists. Can you help me write a performance contract? And it'll spit it out, and then I'll read it and I'll look at it and I'll change it. So a lot of it's just kind of learning as you go. Like, again, when I did the Disney thing, they wanted an orchestrator. So I went and looked up, what is an orchestrator? What does an orchestrator do? What do they got to know? I learned a little bit of that language, so that when I presented myself to Disney, I was able to speak the right language and get the job, Same thing with Modern Family as an actor. They were looking for a cello player. I was like, oh, I got to go become a cello player. I borrowed a cello from my friend. I went and learned how to play the cello real quick. And then the next day I went in and, obviously I have a background on music, so I was able to pick up the cello faster than someone. I play the violin too, so it helped. It wasn't like fully from scratch, but I was definitely able to learn it quickly and go in and get the role as a cellist in Modern Family. So again, a lot of it's just kind of like, you got to learn as you go. Like right now I'm getting into promoting my single, and it's all new to me. I'm new to promoting on social media and TikTok. I'm new to that stuff. I don't have a big, huge online presence. I've got my Instagram. I got a couple things I'm posting, but I'm learning about video editing and CapCut and Video Leap and all these softwares to make TikTok reels and, YouTube shorts. And I'm just kind of learning you just kind of learn as you go.
Okay. Let's talk about, when it comes to acting, did you have to, did they give you the role, or you had to actually, I don't know, you had to actually audition for it?
I had to audition. And when I did all those acting things, it was, you're going in, you get to the audition place in Hollywood or Santa Monica or wherever it is, and and you walk in the room and there's a whole bunch of people that kind of look like you, and it's kind of nerve-wracking. You're like, oh, why is there a bunch of rock and roll looking dudes, or like a bunch of tall males around 5'11", or maybe a bunch of Indian dudes, depending, like everyone, they cast it, all of them are different ways. So in my mind, I was like, okay, I'm going in there, we all kind of look similar, or we're a similar type, a male between the ages of 22 and 25 or whatever, that look kind of like fit or whatever, I don't know, whatever it might be. We all got sent there by our agents or managers or whatever it is. We got submitted. There's like 400 of us. So like in my mind, I'm thinking, I gotta do. Yeah, some of them are like a lot of people, and they just you're going in for 5 seconds, and wow, you're in and out, and they're just gonna wean. They're gonna do a first cut and get it down to like 30 or 40 people, and then maybe the next round in like 3 days, you get a message like, hey, you got called back. I'm like, okay, all right. got called back. All right. So in my mind, I'm thinking, there's that many people. I got to somehow stand out over these people. So when everyone's like in Hollywood, it's like you gotta stand on the thing and you gotta say your name. Everyone be like, my name is this, and I would go like, my name is DPAK, and I would like do some crazy beatbox different thing every time. And I think that's what had me stand out and get a lot more roles, because I was doing something unique that no one else was doing. And so I think that honestly, that's like the story. If I was going to tell anyone else out there as advice for younger people that are getting into the business, figure out how to be unique, because that worked for me. That got me on stage with some of the top people in the world. That got me some of the biggest acting roles in the world, like national commercial for Cadillac in the Super Bowl, like stuff like that. And, and those pay,
what Super Bowl was it?
2015 Cadillac Escalade. It was the commercial where there was an elephant in the beginning. They had the David Bowie song Fame.
Oh, okay.
So if you watch that commercial, there's a dude on an elephant with long hair, like that's me. And it's like the second, and that was a big commercial. It played like all year. And I'm trying to remember, like it was around the Super Bowl or whatever it was. It was a big commercial. I'm trying to remember, it was in the Super Bowl, it was around the Super Bowl, whatever it was. I remember it being like one of the biggest commercials. And I got lucky. Again, I don't know. I walked in, I did some different stuff. I did the beatbox thing. And then when I got to the second or third audition, they had a Rubik's Cube on the table, and I saw the Rubik's Cube. And I remember I used to be able to solve the Rubik's Cube. So I like grabbed the Rubik's Cube and started solving it in front of the casting people. And it was a whole crazy thing. But that's kind of like the audition process. Like you gotta go in there and just gotta get it.
So how long? I heard, man, when it comes to acting, like even commercial movies, I heard y'all you might be on set 12-16 hours. Is that true?
Yeah, man, you're on there all day, and most of the time you're waiting. So what I would do is I would go on there and take my guitar with me, take a notebook. And I would just be like, I would try to find a corner and just work on songwriting. I was like, all right, I'm here for the day. I'm going to let the casting people know where I'm at. I'm over there in the corner. Let me know when you need me on the set, on camera. And then I would just kind of dip. And like a lot of the other people are sitting there all talking and gossiping. And like, I'm like, I got work to do. So I was just kind of being productive. I got to figure out how to, but yeah, there's a lot of hurry up and wait when you're on the set. And you can be there all day and then early in the morning, 4 a.m. the next day, because they're shooting scenes. They're trying to time stuff with the sunrise, or I don't know, whatever it might be. There's so many details. I got to shoot like all these different angles over and over and over again. So it's a lot. There's a lot on there. And it depends on the gig. Like if you're the lead, which, after doing years of different types of kind of more background work and then featured extra work like Grey's Anatomy, ER, those kind of shows, I started getting those bigger roles like we talked about. Then it was like kind of cool. Like I'd show up, get in my own trailer, right? That was kind of a nicer experience. I got for Modern Family, I had my own trailer with a nice little area, air conditioning, everything. And then I wasn't there that long. I was only there for like 4 or 5 hours. And then, they got me in and out, and there were a little bit more, but if you're not as, and depending on what level of role you get booked for, they might have you there for all day. But also if you're like the lead actor and you're the one shooting every single scene, you might be there the entire day too. Like I had a couple scenes in the Modern Family. It wasn't like a huge, it was a co-starring role because I had lines, I had speaking, stuff like that. But it still wasn't, like every single scene of the show. So I didn't have to be there that long. Same thing when I did the Cadillac commercial. It was 3 hours of shooting. I just rode an elephant literally back and forth and just looked like a prince, like an Indian prince, and just rode back and forth on an elephant. And they got every single angle and shot they could. And in the end, you watch that commercial and it's like 3 seconds of my. It was a very short clip of me, but that's Hollywood.
So I know every once in a while you meet people. And I know they ask, hey, how do I get started in the music business, man? What do you tell them?
Yeah, I mean, I tell everyone to figure out what their strengths are first, and also to know what their weaknesses are. Because if you got weaknesses in an area and you're pursuing that route, you're gonna run your head against the wall over and over again. You got to figure out what your strengths are and what makes you unique. And that's the key to anything, whether you're acting or entrepreneur, or you're starting a business. Like a lot of people are doing the same thing. And the only way to stand out in this world is to figure out what's your unique sauce. Like, what is it that makes you different as an artist or a business person, entrepreneur, actor? What is it that makes you stand out? Focus on that and then share that. And then I would say the biggest other thing is, once you're confident in who you are, and I think doing a lot of that self-reflection, like, who am I? why? And the big question is why? Why do I want to do this? Why? What is my message? What is it that I want to say to the world through my art, through my acting, through my business, through my music? Figure out what that is. Really do a lot of that self-reflection work and sit down and journal and meditate. And I think that's like a lot of the inner work that a lot of people don't do. So they're just running around. And again, I'll be honest, I didn't do a lot of that stuff early on too. I was just kind of running around like, I'm talented, I can do anything. And I didn't necessarily know what I was trying to do. And so, yeah, I got successful doing these things, but it didn't feel like I knew why I'm doing it. And now I took some time the last couple of years after 2020 started with the lockdowns and the band, the shows getting canceled. There was a lot of time to reflect, and I was like, hey, let me figure out who I am, why I am, what I'm doing, what I love really. And that started taking my time. Like, what's the sound I want? What's the instruments I want? What's going to make it unique? What's my voice? I'm not trying to sound like Michael Jackson or sound like let me sound like DPAK, and to figure out what DPAK sounds like and make it like my own unique offering. And then going back and like started crafting like, hey, what kind of songs? Well, let's work on an album. And now it's starting to come together. And now I'm starting to see a different type of success than I did before. Before I was like, a Disney gig. I'm working for somebody else though. I got another gig. I got a gig backing up Rihanna. Those are cool. You got to make income. We are in the business of the music business. So you gotta live out here. You gotta pay rent. So of course I was totally down to do those other gigs, but at the same time, it became time to like start figuring out what it is I want to do next. And everybody's different. A lot of musicians and artists, they might go to school and they go to Berkeley and they get their degree and they're not necessarily trying to be a creative or a writer. Then there's lots of gig opportunities for musicians. If you want to be in the pit orchestra for the Grammys, if you want to be like a studio musician, there's lots of work for people that want to do that. I'm a little bit more like I want to have my own individual music. I want to write my own music. I want to share my music. So that's the path I chose. So that's a little bit different. It's obviously a harder path. It's easier. It'd be easy for me to go back to LA, right? And be back and just get gigs and just make some basic income. And it's, at that point, I know how to do that. I've met enough people to get another movie gig. I got my Disney gig. I know how to get those kind of gigs, but I didn't feel fulfilled in the long run doing those just to make rent. I feel like I want to get my message out to the world like a Bob Marley or a Michael Jackson. So that's kind of where things have brought me. But I think each individual, to answer your question again, to wrap this answer up, is you got to figure out what you're trying to really do. Like, what's your passion? What's your message? What do you really want to do? If you want to be a solo artist, that's a lot harder. You got to do the work, but it's going to be very fulfilling. If you want to be a studio musician, network and hang out with the studio musicians. Figure out where all those people hang out. A lot of them are hanging out at these breakfasts, and they do these networking things. And they, you can find out where those people are, and get in the loop. But it's all about finding your network, finding your tribe, and then you can go from there.
Great, man. So if people wanted to follow you online and listen to your music, where would they go to?
Easy, just that spelling, DPAKworld.com. There's the website. You've got social media, DPAK World. If you search it, it comes up, or just type in DPAK. Usually DPAK on Instagram. You'll see DPAK World pop up. Same thing on Facebook, DPAK World, TikTok, X, your Twitter, whatever it's called. But yeah, just DPAKworld.com. Easy website. It leads to everything. I got videos on there. I got links to social media. I got my new single coming out. Spotify, DPAK. Easy.
There you have it. Like, share this episode. All links will be found in the show notes. Until next time, we are out. Peace.
Let's go.